Mary Ellen is a Trustmark policyholder. She's a married working mother who lives in a small South Carolina town along the North and South Carolina border. On July 16th of 2008, Mary enrolled in Trustmark's Universal Life coverage at work through enroller Deborah Davis of PCI. Mary's coverage included a $10,000 child term rider for her 3 sons, Cole, Josh, and Anthony. Her own history told her to be prepared.
My firstborn son, Devin, passed away when he was 17 months old. He had birth defect short bowel syndrome and was in the hospital for the first 11 months of his life. And I took him home for 6 months on life support and cared for him there. He went back into the hospital the day he was 17 months old and passed away 5 days later.
Devin's huge medical bills and lack of life insurance coverage added financial devastation to Mary's grief.
I was unprepared. I was very young, and 17 months later when he passed away, again I was unprepared for expenses of funeral and all the other things that go along with that. And knowing when this insurance policy was offered to me, knowing what I had gone through before, really sparked me getting the policy that I had.
2 months after getting her Trustmark policy, tragedy struck Mary again. 4 years after Devin passed away, Mary had her second son, Tyler Cole, with her first husband. The marriage was brief, but Mary and Cole became extremely close.
Cole filled a void for me emotionally, and maybe that's unfair to say or to put that kind of burden on another child, but Cole was everything to me.
When Cole was 7, Mary met her husband, Scott. Scott had Josh, who was a bit younger than Cole, and together Scott and Mary have Tony. Cole and Josh became fast friends before they were stepbrothers. Normally, in the morning, Scott would drive the 2 teenagers to their high school about 7 miles away. After school, Mary would pick them up. On September 17th of 2008, however, busy schedules caused a break in their routine.
I was insisting that they stayed home, and my oldest son, Cole, was insisting, no, it's almost time for midterms, we need to go to school. And because we couldn't take him, we allowed them to ride with a friend.
That friend, 15 at the time, had just gotten his first car and wanted to show off.
And that afternoon, it was time for them to come home, and we waited and never heard from them. And then finally, about 5:30 that afternoon, the phone rang, and it was a lady from the hospital, and said that there had been a car accident, and she wanted to know if I could describe my boys to her. And they had Josh there at the hospital, but they told me that Cole wasn't there. They didn't have Cole. He was not a patient.
Mary and Scott drove immediately to the hospital. Josh was in a coma. His injuries were many and severe. Then news of Cole arrived.
Finally, they had taken us into a room, and highway patrol and a chaplain and a coroner, along with the doctor, had came in and told us that the car had veered off the right side of the road and overturned, and that Cole was killed on impact.
Cole was in the front passenger seat. Josh was in the back. Before losing control, the boys topped 100 in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. The car rolled 6 times over a span of nearly 400 feet. Cole was 16 years old.
Cole was class clown. Everybody that ever met Cole loved him. Everyone was drawn to him. He was a very good Christian boy, and very involved in our church. He loved bluegrass music. He played the banjo, liked to ride his dirt bike, play football, baseball. He was big and clumsy, redheaded, and just full of life, full of energy. Had lots and lots of reasons in his life to be down, and never was. He inspired a lot of people There's not 10 seconds in a day that goes by when I'm not thinking about Cole and missing him. And, you know, you think about when your children are small, you think about what they're going to be when they grow up, and how many grandbabies they're going to give you, and what kind of girl he's going to marry, and, you know, what college he's going to go to. And Cole had lots of dreams and lots of plans, and every bit of that was taken away. Every bit of it. And I'll never get over it. A child's not supposed to be gone before a parent. And I have 2 that I've lost. I've given birth to 3 children and have 1 biological child left.
Josh remained in a coma for 10 days. His injuries included a broken back, a collapsed lung, and hundreds of cuts and abrasions, especially about his head.
At that time they were telling us that if he survived it all, that he would most likely be blind, paralyzed. Not much hope for him to be able to do anything that he had been able to do before that.
Josh fortunately has recovered well beyond those expectations.
Physically, Josh is fine. Physically, he's wonderful, but mentally and emotionally, he's not capable of doing everything that he could before. He's came a long way, but even in coming a long way, he still has a long road ahead of him.
Josh's medical bills were huge, more than $600,000, and as the legal issues over the crash were being resolved, they were lingering. But Trustmark provided Mary with some very welcome peace of mind.
Trustmark took care of everything. I didn't want to deal with paperwork. I didn't want to deal with making calls. I didn't want to deal with any of it, because in dealing with that, you know, that meant that I was admitting to myself that my child was gone. The hardest part, like I said, was for me to actually get the process started. After that, it was just a couple of phone calls that I made, a couple of signatures, and I never had to think about it again. And I think it was just probably once the paperwork was sent in, it was maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Everyone that I dealt with was very understanding and knowing that I didn't want to have to deal with it. I had to get back to work in a hurry because I was the insurance carrier for our family. And if it weren't for the policy that I had with Trustmark, especially in you know, Trustmark taking care of it as quickly as they have, our family would have been financially devastated.
The child term rider guarantees Josh future coverage, which now brings great value to Mary. She's also thankful for her time and relationship with Deborah Davis, her enroller and benefits advisor from PCI.
Actually, I had lots of reasons why I wasn't interested in life insurance. You know, I had one life insurance policy on myself and my husband, and I never had thought to insure my children. And in talking to Deborah, you know, I started thinking, what if something happened to me? I know that my kids would be taken care of, but if something happened to one of my children, you know, I knew that I was going to have bills and, you know, arrangements that I wasn't going to be able to take care of. So, and then losing one child before, I didn't want to be financially in that situation again, because it's tough.
Losses like Mary's also remind us that seeing, educating, and encouraging employees to be prepared no matter how unlikely something seems matters greatly.
You know, you don't think about things like that until basically you're made to, if that makes sense. But everything about the policy kind of hit home for me.
It really hits home that what you do for a living and what we do as our business really means a lot to people. It gives them an opportunity and helps them.
For Trustmark, Mary Allen's story also affirms our commitment to personal service, and that our way of caring and quickly living up to the promises we make makes a big difference in people's lives.